Hello and welcome to The Price of Music, brought to you by Music Ally, the show that both looks at the finances of the music industry while also bringing you stories and comment from the past week in the pop business. He's Stuart Dredge, I'm Steve Lemack. Let's start with a financial fact, as we always do, something which you might be able to impress friends or colleagues with. This is something which actually came up in last week's lock-in, but it's Stuart's big number for this week as well, which is...
It's a number to horrify your friends, actually, in the pub. 75,000, which is the number of fully AI-generated tracks that are uploaded to Deezer every single day.
Now, this is something, as I say, which we mentioned last week in the lock-in, which is the extra bit of the programme for superfans on Patreon. But it's, as I say, it's worth coming back to because as a headline figure, 75,000 tracks a day sounds very ominous. Although as a percentage of the total amount of music available on Deezer, maybe less so.
Slightly less, yeah. I mean, it's now, of all the songs uploaded to Deezer every day, and because this is Deezer announcing these stats, but you can kind of assume it probably applies to the bigger streaming services too. It's now 44% of all the daily uploads are entirely AI, which has gone up. So I think the first time they released figure was January last year. So what's that, 14 months ago now? And back then it was 10,000 AI tracks a day, and they were 10% of all the uploads. So that's now grown by sevenfold the number of tracks, and it's full. So it's kind of creeping towards half. A lot of the headlines up with nearly half of these tracks. But, and I always come back to this, don't I? Like kind of the sky's not falling in number, which is that when it comes to us actually being played on Deezer, what music being streamed, between 1% and 3% of its total streams are AI music, and 85% of those streams are fraudulent, which basically means it's detected them as being played by bots to try and earn money illegally, and they're not earning any royalties because it's caught them. Right. So really, 15% of up to 3% of its total streams are AI music, but they're 44% of everything. So basically, it's not stealing money from artists just yet at any kind of scale. And Deezer is keeping those tracks out of its recommendations and its algorithms. So people won't get played them. So very few humans are listening to it, but it's just this mountain of slop is building up on Deezer's servers.
Yeah, well, that's surely the thing, isn't it? Because surely it becomes more and more expensive to house all this music, much of which is just AI generated, which no real people are actually listening to. So it's just clogging up the system.
It's true. And every year we talk about, there's that report that comes out in sort of January about how many songs got 0 plays in the previous year.
Yeah.
And we always, if we talk about that, we say, oh, isn't this sad, all these human artists not getting played? But I think as time goes on, a big chunk of those are AI music, and no human artist is sitting there feeling sad at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think it is, and it's a cost for the streaming services. It's an environmental cost. I mean, running servers. I mean, the cost of having all this AI music on Deezer's servers pales next to the cost of everyone using ChatGPT to know what to cook for dinner, for example. So in the scheme of things, it's not. But there is a cost, and it's an issue. But really, the reason they put these stats out is to say there is a lot of music, it's not being listened to, and we're cracking down on the fraud. So don't all panic just yet.
Also, I mean, there's no way of knowing this, Adele, but I'd be interested to find out if this represents new people who are jumping on board the AI bandwagon, where it's people who are starting to make AI music for the first time, or whether it's existing AI writers or creators who are just so good at it now that they can multiply the amount of music that they're making each day. So instead of just posting 3 new tracks, now I reckon I can get about 20 new songs done today if I sit here long enough.
So the people they're onto the difficult 8,002nd album.
Yeah.
Stage.
Okay, here's 3 stories we thought we'd share with you this week. I mean, in truth, it's been a relatively quiet week this week, but we'll lead with this, which was announced yesterday, I think. Spotify and its ongoing drive to lure new subscribers and to launch more new initiatives. Now, Spotify wants to help you get fit. What is going on here?
This is close to both of our hearts.
Yeah.
Well, fitness, yeah. So Spotify just added more than 1,400 workout classes and stuff like ranging from like yoga and meditation to weight training and cardio exercising. And so this is when you basically watch a video of an instructor telling you what to do, and you do it at home in your living room. And it's actually, I don't know, were you aware of Peloton? during the COVID lockdowns? Did you ever kind of catch on to that trend?
I mean, I'm sure you can guess the answer.
Well, did you see it happening? I suppose.
I mean, I was aware it was happening. I think. Yeah.
So for those who don't know, like Peloton was a company that would sell you an exercise bike, but then would also sell you the subscription to do workouts on it. And a lot of people got a Peloton bike during lockdown and were doing these classes. So this is who's doing it with Spotify. Spotify's partner with Peloton. So these workout classes have been created for that. You can only get them on Spotify if you're a paid subscriber. So it's another kind of incentive for people to upgrade. You will get this stuff. Although they're going to have, and this is something that I'm sure you're going to love, there's going to be, for the free tier, there'll be lots of fitness playlists and other videos from fitness influencers. So kind of TikTokers and Instagrammers who do fitness stuff. So that's part of this too for people who don't pay for Spotify.
Right. I think that's all we need to say on that. Moving on, the UK's voluntary £1 contribution on ticket sales at concerts over 5,000 capacity is starting to pay off for the grassroots live scene. The Music Venue Trust and the Featured Artists Coalition both had some news on that last week. I mean, I know a lot of you know this already, but in case you are one of our newer followers, I have to declare an interest here, being chair of Live, which is the live music industry trade body, which goes back to the £1 contribution. And I'm also a trustee of the Live Trust, which is the organisation which distributes money from the fund to organisations like MVT and FAC. But as such, obviously, I'm very proud of what everyone's achieved so far in the course of 18 months, 2 years, launching the Live Trust, getting the industry to look at very seriously what the £1 contribution could provide in the way of support to the grassroots scene, and then off the back of that, the bringing together the trustees, launching the Live Trust, and the first round of funding from this pot of money, which has been raised by contributions of £1 from a load of big gigs. First round of funding was agreed earlier this year. 7 organisations received money for a number of projects across the UK. Amongst them, as mentioned, Music Venue Trust and UCAT, which is the UK Artist Touring Fund, which is run by the FAC, the MMF Music Managers Forum, and the Musicians Union. And both of these organisations reported in last week, didn't they? Both have, and reassuringly, both have been very quick to put this money to use.
I think that's the thing, and I don't want to sort of make this weird, but me telling you what you've just done, because that kind of. But it was the emphasis on both was like, we've got this money, and here's what we're using it on. And I think the Music Venue Trust put this really interesting report out, didn't they? Which was saying I think they got £200,000 from the UK Live Trust. And what this report said was, right at the beginning, we are no longer just reactive. And we've spent a long time fighting closures and challenging unfair policies and firefighting. And now we've got this money, we're going to spend it. And it's going to be spent on something like upgrading the sound and the lighting and the production systems. They're helping venues reduce energy costs. They're improving artist accommodation, which was actually a surprise. I didn't realise that artist accommodation was a venue thing. I assumed everyone's in the Premier Inn, but do they mean changing rooms and backstage stuff? Or?
No actual accommodation. And I think one of the first venues to benefit from this is Voodoo Daddies in Norwich, I think. But the idea is, with touring being so expensive, can you reduce some of the costs by not having to pay for the Premier Inn? Other low-budget hotels are available for bands on tour. But if you take that away, and, there are some of the buildings which house a venue do have spaces in them which you could turn into accommodation. So, but obviously venues, they don't have the profit margin to take a load of money and do it probably for themselves without some financial support. But it makes sense, for everyone, particularly venues in places which are off-putting to bands and their agents. It's a long way to go, and then we'll have to pay, because we won't be able to drive from there. We won't be able to get home after doing that gig, or we won't be able to drive from that gig to the next venue. So we're going to have to stay over. So that increases the price. Well, actually, no, you can stay upstairs.
And not just sleeping back on the floor. Well, that's great then. So this whole report was about it was about this change of emphasis, saying we're still fighting all those fights. We are still fighting closures. We always be for that. But this is about future-proofing these venues and helping them develop, which I thought was great. Yeah. And then the Featured Artists Coalition was the other side. So this was the UK Artist Touring Fund, isn't it? So This is where the money goes to actually artists who are touring who would lose money on the tour and need help. And I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, is it 125,000 I think they had in the first tranche of their fund?
Yeah, I think that's, which comes in a couple of payments, I think. But again, they've been very quick to respond because they had to build a whole system where people could apply and get all the applications in. And I'm sure they were overwhelmed with artists saying, can you give us some money? But the idea, I mean, I don't know what the figures were in terms of the amount of people who applied, but as I say.
So more than 250 applied and 26 artists were successful. And saying this, I'm not like, there's no criticism implied here of the FAC or anything. It's just that shows how oversubscribed it was. They can only do 26 this time round. But that means, I think it's 211 shows. So they're going to get up to £7,000 each artist to kind of cover. And it's I was looking down the list, like it's the Duke Special, one of them. Holly Cook, Gwilym Gold. Like it's artists who are on the radio, have got momentum, got careers, but would be losing money from their tours, and this is going to help them do those shows. So.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, because I mean, it's about not just funding the artist. I mean, there's quite a spread, isn't there? There's some newish, quite new acts. There's some names on there which even I didn't recognise. Right up to, as you say, bands who are on the radar of the alternative music scene. I think Man, Woman, Chainsaw might have got some money.
Yeah,
but this is not just about. But we have to emphasise, it's not just about paying the artists. This is so those bands can perform to the best of their ability for and that works all the way up the chain. So if you're Man, Woman, Chainsaw, who now people are turning up to see, and you expect a certain level, don't you, when your records have been on, BBC Radio and you've played a few gigs and people know who you are, you don't expect them to be humping all their gear in themselves and asking, a mate of theirs for no money to come and do their sound. What they need is to be able to, maybe take a member of crew on, or they need to pay the tour manager rather than the guitarist having to do all the driving if they're to, perform to the best of their ability and put on the best gig that they can for the audience who have turned up to see them, who like them. So it's plugging a lot of gaps in the financing of a tour, really, from, everything from the practical side of petrol, place to stay, can we get a guitar tech? It would really help, or a sound engineer. So there'll be different money in, being used in different ways by different bands depending where they are, I think.
Yeah, and it's good. I mean, this is why, awkward for you because I'm going to be very nice about it. But like, I feel like when people are trying to convince, for example, promoters to say support this levy on tickets, when the music venue trust is trying to get people in the industry to donate to its campaigns, there's always a thing like, okay, what will this money be used for? Will it be used wisely? Like, if I'm going to put money into something. And I think it's just really good that the people are saying, this is exactly what we're doing. This is who's getting the money. This is what we're going to do with it.
Yeah. It's
very clear. And like you say, very quick. There's no kind of hanging around for a year with the money in the bank somewhere, not doing any good. They're getting it out the door quickly to people who need it. And I think it's just it feels like a very positive moment. Like, it's not that the problems have gone away, but these two announcements made me think this is just so good that all this talk about what could be done is now turning into action.
Yeah. Can I just add briefly a slight addendum to that? There is, if you happen to be in London this bank holiday weekend, this coming Sunday, that's the 3rd, I think, of May, isn't it? The Music Venue Trust are holding an event at the V&A in London, celebrating grassroots music culture. There'll be some talks and short films, and there'll be some guests, including some of the MVT patrons will be there. And as far as I know, it's free as well. Starts at 10 o'clock, runs till 5 p.m. this coming Sunday, celebrating grassroots music culture. Right. Third talking point of the week. Now, nobody would mistake me for the actual Taylor Swift, but with AI deepfakes getting ever more convincing, Taylor has taken some action with some trademark filings so that I can't say, hey, it's Taylor Swift here. This is me. I'm Taylor Swift. Yeah. So what can you do in this fight against deep fakery? What has Taylor Swift done?
Yeah, we've got a limited window to be able to say, hey, it's Taylor Swift and not get sued. Possibly. No, so this is about a company called TAS Rights Management, which is, of course, Taylor Allison Swift, her initials. And she's filed for 3 trademarks. And one is a likeness trademark. It's for a visual image. And it's a picture of her in one of her outfits from the Eras tour, which is kind of, to describe, it's like pink sparkly boots, pink guitar, and a silver bodysuit, like one of the signature looks. Like people might be able to picture it in their heads because it was such a kind of key look in the tour. And then 2 are for her voice. So it's her saying, hey, it's Taylor Swift, and hey, it's Taylor, which is kind of unusual. That's more unusual. Like artists do have trademarks on things, but these are called sound marks, which they're usually used for stuff like Netflix has its ta-dum noise.
Yeah.
That would be a sound mark, or any kind of brand that, that kind of Windows startup tone. And what it is an extra layer of legal protection if her lawyers need to take action against deepfakes, because you can say, okay, I have a trademark on this voice saying this, and this is confusingly similar. She's actually the second celebrity to do it, as far as we know, because Matthew McConaughey, the actor, did it in January. The same thing. He did some trademarks on him staring, smiling, and talking. And what he said was like, my team and I want to know when my voice or like this is ever used, it's because I approved and signed off on it. And registering a trademark gives you kind of that legal right to kind of police it. So, yeah, and Taylor Swift is probably one of the most deep-faked celebrities there is. Like I've written about 3 or 4 stories where I think there was one where there are a bunch of sort of explicit images of her doing rounds on X, and her fans had to mobilize to kind of get them taken down. The US president posted a deep fake image of her giving him her vote around the last election, or he shared a meme of it. So she's kind of one of obviously the biggest pop star in the world. She's at the sharp end of this. And so now we're sort of seeing what her lawyers are thinking is the right strategy. So I suspect we'll see a bunch of other artists following suit. And then we might see some cases at some point where we'll see how this gets applied. If someone deepfakes you, can you go after them for trademark infringement? Which I think is just a case of getting things taken down quicker. It might be quicker if you have a trademark that you can say, rather than otherwise you're saying it's my personality rights, and it depends on where you're doing it and what the law is there on kind of people's likenesses and voices. So.
Okay. Any other business? What is this? I don't really understand this, because going back to Spotify have an exclusive on the new Olivia Rodrigo music video, but then doesn't Apple Music have an exclusive? I can't work this out. Apart from it's another spat between 2 big companies trying to claim the limelight with around a big new release.
Well, it's like the music video equivalent of like Oprah Winfrey going, "You have an exclusive, and you have an exclusive, and you have one." So there's a song out, "Drop Dead," which is the Olivia Rodrigo. It's not a comeback single; she hasn't gone away, but it's like the lead single off her new album. Right. It's on YouTube. 23 million people have watched it so far. But there's one on Spotify called "Drop Dead brackets Taken That Eurostar to France," which is a reference to a line in the lyrics of the song. But I don't know. I sent you. I don't know if you saw the screenshot I sent you in preparation for this of that. But the video starts with having a pint of Guinness in a London pub with a bunch of NME covers on the wall, and I was like, if anyone knows what that pub is, it must be Steve. But
the only pub which I've been to recently which has framed NME covers on the wall. I mean, 'cause basically, when you send us a photo saying, "Can you name the London pub?" There's a lot of pubs in London. From one picture, one inside picture, one picture taken inside a pub. Can you name the pub? The only place I've been to which has NME covers on the wall is the Elephant's Head in Camden.
Okay, well, maybe Olivia Rodrigo was in there down in Guinness's recently. But But so that's the Spotify one. But Apple Music has got another version called "Drop Dead Stalked You on the Internet," which is another lyric. Less pubby in that one. And it's essentially what's happened is 2 different videos have been shot and given out to these 2 big streaming services for festive. Right, so each of them has got an exclusive Olivia Rodrigo music video for the same song, which is... I think it's quite clever. Obviously, she's got an Olivia Rodrigo-sized marketing budget to do this. Like, it's not something that every band can do, or maybe you can. Like I feel like when I talk to smaller artists, they're getting quite good at saying, "Well, we film something and use it in 27 different ways on social media and different platforms." So it's kind of that writ large. But I wonder if we'll see this more often, because I think there was a time. I'm trying to think when it was. It was when Apple Music launched, so probably about sort of 10 years ago now. There was competition for exclusive on actual music, and Apple Music might say, "We've got this album," and no one else has got it. And that died out because people didn't like it. I think the music industry didn't really like it. And the rival streaming services went, well, if you're going to give them an exclusive, I'm not going to promote your album when it comes out. So that died to death. But now they still like to have stuff that is exclusive to them. And this is a way of doing that without annoying fans and without annoying the rivals. But I don't know whether Amazon Music is sitting there going, bloody Olivia Rodrigo, she didn't give us a music video. So maybe you have to keep going with that strategy.
Greater Music Group. Now, this is something, I mean, I don't know whether I should bristle about this or whether this is just an inevitable evolution of the record industry given the current landscape and the new tech. But Greater Music Group, wait for this, is a brand new record label run by an army of AIs. So is this the future? That's the question. So is it? I mean, it's a record label, and it's in inverted commas staffed by AIs. How is it run by AIs?
Yeah, so it's set up by actually a famous person. So Randy Jackson, who's a music producer, but he was an American Idol judge, so very famous in the US. And Paula Moore, who's a music industry veteran. So there's humans setting it up, but they've built, and the quote is, a fully built AI native system designed to operate a music company end to end, including an AI army of scouts, marketers, and operators. So basically, it's a bunch of AI agents they look for promising artists, they sort of scan data online, they plan marketing campaigns, they handle analytics, they handle finances, and they manage music catalogs to try and squeeze money and make sure everything is working right on YouTube and Spotify and so on. Right. The thing I found fascinating was the scouting. So basically, these AI agents, these AI scouts, they're kind of hoovering up all the data from streaming and social media. But they also say they're pulling in cultural trends and local scenes, like understanding, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. If there's a new emo movement kicking off in Clacton, it's a terrible example. They might be able to take that in and understand that from the web. And then they can be like, right, okay, so what new emo bands are there in Clacton? We'll follow them. And that one's got momentum, so maybe we should sign them. And the best thing is these scouts have all got names. And they're called things like Prism, Nexus, Cypher, Halo, Storm, Frost, and Blaze. It's like gladiators. Storm and Blaze. I think there might be a Blaze gladiator, mightn't there? But it is, I mean, this is like someone putting together all these little pieces of how AI can be used by a label into a big whole. And it's almost like a proof of concept. Look, they could do everything. I don't know if that means they do everything better than humans.
I mean, this is a strange thing, isn't it? Because, as I say, was this always going to be the natural conclusion? Because, is it that much different to how some labels go about trading at the moment, except with real people doing the same jobs that the AIs are going to take over? Because if you talk to any artist, well, not any artist, but I've talked to a lot of artists over, particularly in the last decade, and particularly, I guess, again, in the last 5 years. But they often say too much A&R, particularly within the big three companies, just comes down to how many plays you've had on streaming services. Rather than you being a talent, a lot of A&R comes down to, well, how many followers have they got on Instagram and how many hits have they had on TikTok? So some of the practices of this new label are already being employed, aren't they? And obviously, I'm not saying there aren't A&R departments who are looking for talent based simply on an artist's potential and the songs that they write and the skills that they have and the charisma they express on stage. But A&R has become quite stats driven in a lot of labels.
I think that's it. And this is almost like someone pushing it to the furthest extent you can and getting us to do everything. Whereas, like you say, I think a lot of labels now, if you've got an A&R person, a human, do you want them spending their day in front of spreadsheets looking at SoundCloud stats? Or do you want them out and about listening to stuff and meeting bands? And so one argument in the mainstream industry is like, actually, if AI can help with the stat crunching, the human can get on with the human stuff. People often say that argument right before the human gets sacked, which is the other way of saying it, So, but the other thing is, I think A&R is really fascinating because I think, if your A&R strategy is I want to be signing the thing that's blowing up online based on metrics, then an AI can do that for you.
Yeah.
It's but there's this really thing. Some people who know a lot about AI have said this to me, that what AI struggles with is taste. And AI can't know if something is good. It can compare it to lots of things that other people have said are good and say, well, it might be good, but it can't say this is good. That's the human role. And it's really difficult for AI to do. There's a really funny quote from it's a guy called Mark Andreessen. He's one of the bigwig Silicon Valley executives, and he's one of the biggest boosters of AI. And he often says things that quite make me go, ugh. But once he said, but my job, venture capital investor, I can't be replaced by an AI because I have taste. His thing was like, humans have that critical thinking. And I think that's a difficult thing with signing artists, is you can say this thing should be big because of all the metrics, but all the human part of it. But I think it's interesting. This is a really interesting case study, I think, of someone saying, well, look, all the different ways AI, because I think the other thing is in labels, handling finances, optimizing catalogs. This is stuff that humans have done, but that AIs can do. And so that's, from a label point of view, that's quite a good thing. From the point of view of the people who work in labels doing that, it's obviously a worrying thing because your job might be going.
But I don't know whether this leads us to, does this bog us down though, rather than helping us progress musically? Because surely a lot of what the AIs are doing are based on things which have happened. I mean, I guess in this case, you're saying, there are developing trends and they will then follow those developing trends. But it's whether the AI can predict what's going to happen within those trends and what will happen with that artist. It might be doing well now, but the whole skill, part of the skill of A&R is, I mean, I suppose there's short-term and long-term A&R, isn't there? And short-term, an AI can probably pick a hit in the same way that an A&R person can say, well, that thing's gone viral, I'm going to sign it, and then we'll sign it for one album, and then it'll probably be all over. But there's the long-term A&R where you're looking for potential to grow and develop as an artist. Can AI do that? I'll tell you one thing AI can't do. Can't take a band out to lunch. There you go.
Wow. But that's it. That's exactly the thing. And that sounds like a joke, but it's not. Because how much of this industry is... In fact, was it Neve Byrne was saying that, about how much of the manager's job is human?
Yeah.
Now. So I think but it is really interesting. Like, I'm fascinated to see this technology at work, because it's a sort of thing where you could sign a whole bunch of artists and have one big hit, and everyone goes, aha, look, AI labels are the future because they had a big hit. But it's about numbers. But I think the other thing is, like you say, that when you're looking for the next thing, whenever we talk about independent music, and that thing, that all the new musical trends, often they really spawn from the independent side of things, because those labels take risks. And I think those are the labels that aren't going to turn over the A&R to a bunch of AIs. So I think it is still going to be humans making those signings and finding those new things. But then the AIs might jump on it really quickly, and then we have I don't know. I'm trying to think of how I say it without offending everyone in the music industry, but I think it, in a way, when we get humans to act in ways that AIs can copy. So if we get humans to just sign things based on the metrics, then AIs can come along and do it. So in a way, it's that problem of humans getting displaced is something we've created for ourselves by getting the humans to act in a less creative way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I worry about that. I worry that's the kind of hole we're digging, is that we've gone down a direction that AIs can swoop in and do this job, and then you get the decision about whether to use them or not.
One other piece of other business, if you will. This is, actually, it's an observation from one of our superfans, which brings us back to a piece we spoke about the other week about gigs being cancelled due to poor advance ticket sales, and how audiences appear to be buying tickets later and later for some shows, which is causing problems for promoters. David Ely has been in touch saying one reason for not buying in advance is the additional fees charged, which are not refunded if the gig gets moved to another date. The Roundhouse in London, for instance, charges 15% on top of the price, and that's non-refundable even if the gig gets moved to another date. So I'm leaving a lot of Roundhouse bookings to nearer the time of the gig, says David, which is, I mean, it's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many shows at the Roundhouse have been rebooked, but let's, moving it out, making this a bit broader. Are additional fees one of the things that is putting fans off committing to buying tickets in advance. And obviously this is theatre level upwards, really, we're talking about, I think.
That feels like a solvable problem, doesn't it, though? Do you think, like, I mean, if that is going to, if that, how can you rejig that so that they're not feeling lost out or losing on fees?
Yeah. Anyway, good point. Thank you very much, David. Yeah. If you've got any comments to make on any of the stories we cover, of course, we would love to hear from you. The email address is coming up very shortly. Just time for, and finally this week, and finally, the Finnish band Heavysaurus, who make high-quality heavy metal music for children, while dressing up, we should add, as dinosaurs, have now released their first English-language song. Over the last 2 months, 3 months, probably more than that, we've been talking about how music not sung in English is becoming more and more palatable and more acceptable to big pop audiences. Now we've got someone going, no, let's do a song in English, which is the dinosaurs' first language, English.
Well, is it? Of course, yes. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, yeah, but this, but I find like so Heavysaurus, they're founded in 2009, so they're veterans now. They've been going for 16 years now in Finland. And you probably won't need this, but just in case it's Mr. Heavysaurus on vocals, Muffy Puffy on bass, Millie Pilly on keyboards, Compy Mompy on drums, and Riffy Raffy on guitar. So you can see where they've gone there with the names.
Yeah.
But they've always sung in Finnish, but then last year they appeared on Britain's Got Talent, which is random, being Finnish. And they covered like Bon Jovi and Queen, and they got 4 yeses from the judges, and Simon Cowell nearly showed emotion. But and now they've got this first thing, and they're playing the Bloodstock Festival in August as well. So like you can go, if you're going to that, you'll get to see Saxon and Sepultura and Judas Priest, and also Heavysaurus, which I'm thinking about the metal demographic. There are a lot of people with kids who will be going, and now there's something for them. That is a bunch of dinosaurs playing, and there's proper metal like that. I've been digging into this, as you can tell. The Britain's Got Talent was almost them going, we'll play something really mainstream, some mainstream rock songs. But they're like more Iron Maiden style metal, like proper metal. But just don't let they obviously have a real love for the music, and they're doing it for kids. So so Heavysaurus, their first English language song is called Heavy Metal Horns,
right?
Which is obviously a concept whose roots are perfectly good for kids to be doing. And they'll be playing at a metal festival near you this year.
And that's it for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you are enjoying the show, as I always say, do help us spread the words by passing on details of the programme, posting nice things about us, leaving reviews where possible. You can also support us via Patreon. In fact, if you sign up to be a superfan, you also, as mentioned right at the start of the programme, you get to join us for our weekly lock-in where you get to stay behind after hours for an extra bit of the programme, some bonus material. You can gain access to that by becoming a superfan of the show at patreon.com/thepriceofmusic. Alternatively, if you would like to get in touch like David did, it would be lovely to hear from you. Send us an email. Anything you don't understand about how the industry works, any advice or guidance we can give you, drop us a line. thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. That's thepriceofmusicpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. See you next week.